I hit the button, which means that
The button.
the button means
So I can stop. I should stop complaining about tournament organizers now.
you should probably stop because you don't even know who they are or what they're doing, and it's a really bad look to just be like, oh no.
Let me just say, like, when people accuse Trent of like doing it for the clout and stuff, there's like real stuff that we could drop for the clout. You know,
That seems so scary that the clout could also mean being blackballed.
Yeah.
So.
The cloud, you know, it's burning bridges, ruining relationships.
That's the best way to
I will say I have a lot of respect for Thorin, for how he is able to always criticize event organizers. Like, he will literally criticize everybody, and he still works and gets hired by them all the time. And that is...
I would never hire him.
I know you wouldn't, but I like Thorin. I had the chance to meet him in person. I know he can be an abrasive person, but there's a lot of his personalities that I do quite like, and that is something that I really respect out of him, that he seems to have a lot of integrity in that regard. And I kind of, like, I'm thinking about, like, I want to be more like that.
But it feels so dangerous because the integrity does so often cross over into, like, if I say one wrong thing, you know, is that 20% off my yearly income?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's also like, and there's also the question of, like, at what point do you post this stuff on social media and what point do you post this stuff privately? You know, and like,
at what point do you make a show and talk about it?
At what point do you, at what point do you make a show about it? And like, what point do you, when you're posting it privately and it's not getting fixed, or it's not getting fixed very quickly, like, how, like, what's the breaking point, you know?
Yeah, you know, this is the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And that's something that we're intimately familiar with in the Dota community, because the squeakiest of wheels get all the grease, or at least that's what people think, you know. If I don't shout from the rooftops every day about this thing that I don't like, then Valve's never going to change it. Yeah. So we're already kind of in a microcosm of culture that's used to being rewarded for being loud, which I don't know if I necessarily like. It's like when you give a dog too much food from the dinner table, and they're like, okay, well, they're going to give me scraps of food. So they just like sit there and beg. They're like, you know, if I just keep on asking, like, something's going to happen. Something will change. Mm-hmm. But it's, I guess, you know, that's also just not a Dota thing at this point. You know, we do that with Counter-Strike. We do that with League. We do that with most games. We do that with me. We do that with Sonic, the movie.
Yeah.
So we've really come into a point where the only way to get change is to be loud on the internet.
Can I just say, that I can't stop thinking about it, so I have to say it. I have to get on my soapbox a little bit here. To bring this back into Dota and something a little less serious, I hate those Reddit threads.
I know what you're going to say.
Literally unplayable. Link to spell description or misspelled word or grammar error. Or in the latest one was the missing name for Void Spirit. Void Spirit's name is Granny. I'm sorry. Void Spirit's name is Nai, and you cannot type that in to the hero thing to pull up the hero. A new hero who like nobody refers to as Nai. But that's the latest Reddit post, and that indeed got that squeaky wheel did get the grease. Valve changed that. You can now type in an I to find Void Spirit.
Was that the breaking point for you? Because I saw that tweet.
No, I made that tweet beforehand, and then I saw that. I saw that later, and I was just like, "Oh Jesus!" So I made a sarcastic one about
Granny
about Snapfire. I can't type in Granny and find Snapfire. Somebody posted on Reddit. I hate that. It's such low effort. Honestly, that should be a flare that I should mute. I'm not that good with Reddit.
You'd be surprised,
mute stuff.
How many people don't use that?
The flares?
Yeah, there's a lot of work that's like put into like that system.
There's a long list of flares. I noticed recently when I posted our Charlie podcast on Reddit, I was like, oh, that's right. I remember this. There's a lot of flares.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So in theory, you can use Reddit to like your best.
Yeah.
What suits you best, but like something like 7% of people use it. And to those 7% of people, it is like the most invaluable feature on the Dota subreddit is to be able to just sort out all the complaints, all the suggestions, all the videos. But you know, that's a lot of work for that 7% when the vast majority of people just don't do that. I think there is a place for that meme, the one that you really don't like. I think that it's almost a fun way to say like, oh, hey, here's this little tiny insignificant thing that doesn't really matter, but like it's incorrect. Like it's probably a bad look. Like if Valve was a normal company that had like 100 QA testers, there would be someone in house who would be like, oh, hey, you spelt this wrong. Or why is this backwards than this? So I feel like there's a cute way to use it. But what always happens with, I mean, you can like memes or Reddit in general, says people are like, hold on, are you telling me that I can get internet points?
Yes.
By trying to be funny, low effortly?
That's the part that bothers me. I know that there's probably a way that I could probably mute all these posts, but it just like at its core, it bothers me that the front page of my subreddits community that is like, it is very important to me. I use Reddit a lot. That like such a low effort shit post like that will get like 900 points for a joke that's just been beaten to death 100 times over. For a change that doesn't do anything for Dota whatsoever, while like really good content that is actually like takes hours and hours to make. And for anybody who's wondering, I'm not referencing to our podcast. That is literally just us shit posting verbally for an hour and a half.
Okay,
but
yeah,
I'm referring to like people who actually like make videos and stuff like that. Gets like no upvotes, and I'm just like, why is it this way? Like something at the core of that just bothers me, that people won't take the time to upvote the good content and will instead upvote the shit post and don't like it, Joey. I don't like it.
People, I always attribute to just people liking, not putting that much effort in, right? Like if everyone took 2 hours out of their day to look at all these Reddit posts from an objective position and be like, what is the most valuable thing for the community after mulling over it? I think we'd have more of the effect of like actual interesting things, new people, fun stuff, interesting like thoughts bubble up to the top. But that's just, we've all, I don't want to say we've devolved as humans, but it definitely feels like we're at a point where it's just like, what is the headline? Furthermore, is it funny? If so, that's what I like. Like, you know, we see it just beyond. It's not just a Dota subreddit thing. Like most subreddits,
it's not.
Most subreddits are like it.
Honestly, our esports, like our Dota 2 and how it incorporates esports is very good. I think. I know there's a lot of problems with other esport or other subreddits for games that they don't involve their esports at all, such as Overwatch is obviously the biggest one.
Yeah, they have two different communities for it.
Yeah, they just straight up split it up and everything. Our community is really good at that. It just still like fundamentally just bothers me because it's just not funny. It's not funny. Shout out to Paprika who put out another video. He's the guy who does like the very droll talking about his latest one was why more people watch Dota instead of play Dota. Mm-hmm. I think that content is hilarious. I love it so much. And like that'll never be the top post on Reddit, but literally unplayable. There's very real chance that's going to be there, and it bothers the hell out of me.
It's a barrier of entry thing.
Yeah.
Even like, you know, if we want to be selfish and talk about like, oh hey, the Arteezy episode was on the subreddit. Like that's not. Like maybe like a top 3 thing, but if you look at the discrepancy between the upvotes between that and like the joke above it, like it's really not close. It's like, oh man, Arteezy doesn't do podcasts. I thought more people would. Oh no, okay, I get it. Okay, that's fine. So you do have to kind of, I guess, separate yourself. Then it's so hard for me to try and be objective about the subreddit at this point after I've like had my hands in it for so long.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That I look at a lot of the things that other communities will do, like the League of Legends subreddit, which is a very easy parallel to draw and be like, well, I'm glad that we don't do that. And sometimes I feel like because we are, at least in my opinion, which is totally fair if anyone thinks it's wrong, is better than most, if not all, the other esports game subreddits, that like that's enough. Like, oh, we're not doing dumb shit like League is. That's fine. Like that's we're reaching a bare minimum, but really we should be trying harder to go beyond that. Like be in first place and then get a lead, not just be in first place and coast.
Let me say, there is a meme shit post that returns every single time, and I actually like this one. It's the +1 armor meme with the cartoon where you just do the lazy the paint cropping and you just stack. Like I find that one hilarious because there's like history to go with it. It takes a modicum of effort, and you also can't post it every other day because it only comes with a patch.
Because and not every patch.
There has to be a patch that somebody gets +1 armor. I'm totally down with that. So I'm okay with shit posting. It's just for whatever reason the unplayable one just bothers me at its core, and I'm sorry, I can't get over it.
My favorite post like that is when you talk about fuck. Now I can't remember it. Oh no, it's about the hero aesthetics. Or I forget what. Like the hero style guy when they release like this is why all the heroes.
Oh,
like
so
this.
you know like
the distinct.
Yeah, the distinct.
God damn it! Can we get there together? Can we collectively get there? I'm trying really hard to remember
portfolio,
what it is. Visual cues. Hold on, I fucking think I can find it. God damn it! Glance value.
Glance value.
That's what it is.
Yes.
I'll do a better take. It's glance value. You know the glance value.
Right.
It's that's my favorite thing when we go back, because if we can do this show,
yeah,
and have any number of people from Valve on, God willing, one day, sit down, just ask them some things about Dota.
Okay. Oh, you're already setting this up, Ti. I will try and get Bruno on.
Oh, I
don't think it'll happen, but I will try.
I have to prove to him that it's worthy.
Okay.
And then maybe, I don't know. That's thinking a lot. It would be really weird if Bruno's listening to this and being like, "Why are you thinking about?" I should stop. Bruno, I would fucking love you to be here, but not even. Bruno.
What's the question?
Anyone from Valve, if they were here, I'd be remiss to not talk about when did we officially stray from the glance value thing, and what was like the thought process behind it? Because we really went from a point of like, hey, we can't have Ursa wearing overalls to whatever the winter pack is, and somewhere in between we stopped caring.
Yeah, Sven is now an emo He-Man. He's got that weird face and the emo haircut brushed over to the side, just like a Baden.
Yeah, I mean, I guess fucking Treant's a Christmas tree.
Yeah, they're like the color scheme was supposed to be something that was always going to be the same, and then like only the Arcanas can change the color scheme, and then now everybody's like, oh, I see Tree Protector. He's like 4 different colors based off of the game. You know, he's a fall tree, he's a green tree, he's a white tree. You just never know. My
goal would be to one day is that someone at Valve trusts us enough to sit down and do an hour with us. And we can talk about this. It's never going to happen. When it does happen, it'll happen.
Nobody from Valve will ever do this.
They did the fucking thing with Jeff Keighley, and I'm not saying we're Jeff Keighley.
I don't know who that is.
He was doing like the Half-Life Alex reveal videos.
Oh, right.
You know, Jeff Keighley, host of Jeff Keighley's Game Awards, hosted by Jeff Keighley.
Former Valve person.
That could work.
Okay. I could see that being a real.
That could work. Or would that just piss off the current Valve people and then really burn that bridge, and then they'd never do it? We're getting a little meta here. One day, you gotta have goals. You gotta have goals.
Goals.
You gotta have goals.
Those are our goals.
We did the Arteezy thing. Do a Valve person thing. Yeah. Glance value. That's what we were talking about. The subreddit. That's what we're talking about. I don't know what we're talking about. I set up this episode to be a little bit different. Like, because this is an episode out of time, kind of. This is like an episode that might be 13, but also might be 17. It's like an in case of emergency episode, right? So
This episode is just stored behind a glass cage. If no podcast, break glass.
Basically, which I think is a good thing, but we might confuse some people about the timeline of chronology of what we're talking about. So I feel like it's worthwhile being upfront to say that this episode might be out of time, and being so, it's hard to be like, oh well, I'm really excited about who won the We Play Major. I really thought it was going to be Nigma because they were the old Team Liquid, and that new name they got really made them play worse. So I'm excited to see Gambit win. It'll be really cool if that's true, but yeah. It's gonna be like,
I was trying to follow that storyline. I was just like, what?
I'm sorry. Geek Fam's going to win the major. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Also, things might not have great continuity. Also, thank you for listening. If you want to watch us, just look up Sidepole Podcast on YouTube. If you want to listen to us, just look up Sidepole Podcast on your podcast player, because we're on both. And I know people prefer different things, but it helps if you subscribe to both and leave a review on iTunes. Thank you very much. I'll shut the fuck up now. We took a bunch of questions off Twitter. We asked for them.
Yes.
We didn't give a lot of notice, so I don't know if there's going to be ones after the fact that people will be like, oh, they didn't answer mine. That's because this was poorly planned. But I shouldn't focus on that because no one needed to know that, so we can just really focus on. We just asked. We thought it might be interesting to just do a little bit of Q&A.
Yeah.
People had questions about Dota.
I've listened to my share of podcasts, and they always do a Q&A because it's a good way to have a backup episode.
It is a good way to have a backup episode, and I'm of the opinion that if people are gonna eventually really like this show, they eventually have to like us, right?
That's true.
So maybe this is a way that people can be like, I relate with them. Or polar opposite, maybe it's the way that people realize that they don't like us. So
I feel like there may be a few people that don't like me after that last episode.
yeah, we don't know which one that was.
Me getting somebody fired is not.
Oh yeah, you did get someone fired.
Great one.
First question from me, even though we have other ones.
Okay.
You told me you had a Singapore story that you didn't get to tell before.
Oh, I've got 2 more stories.
You got 2 more stories?
Yes.
You want to give me like one now, one later?
Sure.
You want to bookend it?
Well, both of these have to do. Actually, no. I can just fit it into one story.
Right.
So I had like a very eventful post Christmas. We got home on the 27th, 28th. I think it was the 28th. And a lot of things happened. Think about a day after we got back, my girlfriend had a death in the family.
Oof.
So she had to go back to Romania, and rough time. So we had to last minute notice. We couldn't spend New Year's together, and she had to fly to Romania, and we had to book flights for that. So that is the end of what's going to happen in this story. She's going to fly to Romania. The start of this story is we get back from Christmas, and the very first night that we stay in our apartment, my girlfriend has very vivid nightmares. She tells me about them, and they're some of the craziest stuff and scary stuff that I can't imagine having those kind of nightmares and remembering them. And she was having a very vivid nightmare. And the nightmare is that we were both laying in our bed, which is always those nightmares are the best / worst because it's very similar to reality, right? Laying in bed, both of us are laying in bed, and apparently there is this creepy. Should I warn people about this isn't going to get gruesome, but it might be a little scary. I don't know. Anyway, there's this creepy, like doll-like creature.
Okay.
That is on my side of the bed, and its head is like right by my chest, sort of deal. So like imagine maybe it's like off the bed, and its head is like kind of forward, like near my chest, and it's reaching over across, and with its like very claw-like hands, like scratching at my girlfriend. And she wants it to stop. And I've told her, like, you just need to ignore it to go away. Like we can't do anything about this super creepy monster that's in our room.
Just go to bed, honey.
You just have to try and ignore it. And it keeps on, like, kind of scratching at my girlfriend. And she finally, like, gets mad enough that she decides it's enough. And she reaches over to grab at the thing's neck to like try and choke it. So she like real quickly just reaches over and grabs at its neck. And she ends up grabbing me right on my armpit and just squeezing really hard. And I woke up so violently. I literally screamed because I thought I was under attack. I was like, oh! I thought somebody was attacking me. I woke up full adrenaline, fists out, ready to fight somebody because I thought I was under attack.
Oh no.
That was the terrible nightmare we had, and very funny moment. You know, I was just like, you know, I woke up screaming and everything, and you know, everything was all good. Dude, very funny.
Were you like playing Death Stranding, and she like has bad baby imagery in her head? Like,
no, I have no idea. She just has very vivid nightmares, unfortunately. But yeah, so that happened. So I got attacked in the middle of the night, and then the following night. My cat knocks over something in the middle of the night, and it makes the loudest noise that it has ever made. And so once again, I wake up full of adrenaline, thinking someone broke into my apartment. And I get out, like, I'm naked. I get out of my bed with my fists up in the air, like ready to fight whoever just broke into my apartment. As I search the apartment every inch, and then I see something, I don't even remember what it was, laying on the floor. And then I realized my cat knocked something over and nobody had broken into the apartment. Dude. So that was back-to-back nights, right?
You've had a rough go. I'm glad you got
so those
sleep.
2 nights in a row. Third night.
Oh, no.
Okay.
What happens the third night?
I am going to bed quite late. I try and go to bed at like 2:30 at this time. I stay awake until like 3. And I'm sort of non asleep. And at about 3:20 in the morning, my doorbell rings. Uh-huh. And you know, I'm naked. My girlfriend has clothes on because she's sick. So like the doorbell rings and she's a pretty light sleeper. So she wakes up and in kind of the haze of like just waking up sort of deal, she's like, oh, I'll get the door. Right. And it's 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, absolutely not. You're not at the door. Like nobody's ringing our doorbell like at 3:30 in the morning. Nothing is good business at that point in time. So I tell her, absolutely not. You're not answering the door. And it rings about 3 times before I'm finally able to throw on like enough clothes that I go and my door doesn't have a peephole.
You have a window?
I have a window. So if you would imagine the letter C, but with straight lines. So the top of the C is the door. The long part, the vertical part of the C is the window, and then the bottom part of the C is this little alcove sort of deal where you could kind of hide behind, so that like people like the people like in the driveway and on the main street that are just out there wouldn't be able to see you. And so I look through that window to be able to see like who's at my door, and nobody is there at the door. And then I turn, I notice something in the corner of my eye, and there's this woman, I had to guess mid-20s, maybe early 30s, most likely mid-20s. is crouched there in the corner of that alcove. And she's kind of like motioning frantically to me while being like very much crouched and trying to hide from something, right? So I'm on like full alert. And I open the window. I notice a couple of things. First of all, that she's got a backpack. And the other thing I notice is I don't see anybody else around. I can't see down into like the driveway area, but I can see like the walkway. It's an outdoor walkway that goes to my apartment room. And I don't see anyone down that hall, but there's also another hall on the perpendicular that I can't really see. So that's all the information I really have. And so I don't see anybody. So I'm a little bit cautious, and I open up the window. And this woman's going a mile a minute. Like, she is talking very quickly, but also very quietly. And I'm also hard of hearing. Like, I have actual hearing loss, so it's a little hard for me to make out what she's saying. But the only part that I really picked up was that she was running from a group of men. Like, that's the phrase that really, like, I really heard that stuck with me. And I'm like, running from a group of men. And she's like, can you let me in? Let me in. Please let me in. And something in my stomach tells me, like, no, I'm not trusting this at all. So I tell her, I try and calm her down. I'm saying, like, just give me a minute. And I go back and I tell my girlfriend, call the cops, etc. And then I go back to her. And I talk to her, and she's still talking like so quickly every single time I go to the window, and she's like begging me to please let me in. I'm trying to hide, something like that, and my instinct is telling me not to open the door, but obviously, like, I'm sitting there, like, very much worried that this woman is, like, legitimately being attacked and stuff. And, like, am I just going to leave her outside? And so I had to face this, like, high adrenaline, like, moral quandary of, like, do I let in, like, do I potentially be the person that doesn't save this life? Doesn't save this person's life, right? And the I remember the thing that snapped to my head was my first priority is protecting my girlfriend. That is like priority number one. And that's the only thing that matters right now. And so I grab a butcher knife and I tell her, I go by the window and I tell her, like, okay, like, if somebody comes for you, I will help you, but I am not letting you in. Like, I don't know you. I don't, like, it's just a weird situation.
This feels like a good compromise.
Can't let you in. I said, don't worry. Like, I've called the cops. I have a knife. I will come out and help you. Like, I will stand here with you. Like, I'll make sure nobody attacks you. If they do, I'll open the door and come out. And she's like kind of nodding her head and kind of understanding, and then she says a few more things very quickly, and she's like, okay, I understand, and then it slips out when I say that I don't worry, I called the cops. She says, I was running from the cops. Motherfucker, are you kidding me? You were running from the cops? The group of men that you were running from was the cops?
Well, why?
And at that point, I'm just like, Jesus. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not letting you in to run from the cops. And, God bless her. This wasn't a trap or anything. That was like one of the biggest things that stood out to me. Everyone, when I wrote about this on Twitter, I told a very brief part of that story, and everyone referenced The Purge, which I've never seen.
Me either. So this is a reference lost on both.
But like the first thing I thought of was that this was a woman trying to get me to open the door, and then other people were gonna like bum rush me, sort of deal, right? And so then at that point, like all relief goes through my system, and I'm just like, oh, she's she's running from the cops. This isn't like a trap or anything. And also there's not a guy that's coming to attack her that I might have to try and stab with a butcher knife sort of deal. Like all of that just floods in all this relief of just like, oh, okay, good. Where this is a fine scenario. I'm a little bit still worried because she does have a backpack and I don't know what's in the backpack, if she has a gun or anything like that.
Man,
yeah. So, you know, I'm still like a little bit wary, but I'm just like, you know, I can't let you in. I'm not going to. I called the cops. I'm not going to let you in to hide from the cops. To be fair to her, I don't think like my judgment of her, she wasn't a threat. I think if I had to hypothesize, which I tried to talk to the cops about it, but they were talking to her for like a solid like 45 minutes or something. So I never really got the chance. I didn't want to interrupt their job. Sort of deal.
But now you're up in the middle of the night. It's like the sun's going to come out soon. And you're like,
exactly. I had all this adrenaline. I'm not going to sleep. I just want to know what actually was going on. If I had to guess, I think she was probably on drugs. And I think what happened is that she saw like cops somewhere and then got really paranoid and then booked it.
Yeah.
You know, and then that caused a lot of commotion because I was not the only one to call the cops apparently. And yeah, I mean, I saw them search her backpack. They didn't immediately arrest her, so there was probably nothing in the backpack that was actually of any consequence. But yeah, that was my that was crazy 3 nights.
If you lived like
Christmas.
one door over,
yeah,
but enough, dude,
I would have slept through the night. I would have gotten a lot more sleep that night. And then like 14 hours later, my girlfriend had to go out to LAX to fly to Romania. Yeah.
That's also
it's been an eventful week. So that was my story.
Dude,
I just wanted to tell that story in full because I only put it on Twitter. And let me just say, most people were very understanding of it, but there's always those few people, man, who seem to think that if they were in a situation like that, they would have handled it better. Like, I'm recollecting the story, and I think I handled it really well.
I think you handled it really well. I think I would have ignored the woman. I feel like that would have been my base first thing.
Yeah.
I think that you handled it very well. The whole, hey, you're outside, I'm inside. If you need help, I'll help you. I'll stay here with you. Like, that feels like a good compromise. Keeps you safe, keeps her maybe calm. Because letting her in just feels like the wrong choice.
Yeah.
The least safe choice. Ew.
Yeah, I remember sizing her up and thinking like, okay, I'm like 99% sure I can take her. She doesn't look big. Like, I remember thinking that, like, if I do let this woman into my house and she is a threat, like, can I take her down sort of deal? And that was such a weird, oh God, that night was so weird. But that leads me into a small rant of like, I just hate people who like, dude, I put it on Twitter. It's 140 characters. I obviously didn't tell the whole story, but people are like, you know, that was good and everything. Like, because obviously, I thought the funny part was that she ended up that she was running from the cops.
Yeah,
that's the punchline of the story. So that's what I told. And people, you know, there was 1 or 2 people who were like, you know, I can't help but thinking, what if she was really, you know, running from a guy or something that was out to hurt her or something? Like, I didn't say the part that I was holding a knife, that I was sitting there watching it with her. I didn't say any of that. But of course, people had to criticize in some way. God. It's the part that the internet drives me the batshit craziest is when people feel the need to criticize when they're very obviously don't know the whole story. And also the idea that people think that in these situations that they would have clear understanding. Because believe me, I was jacked up on adrenaline at that point. When you are put into situations like that, and I've been in like only a couple of them, like the world is just a little different. Yeah. You know, you're just hopped up on adrenaline. Like,
time moves a little slow.
Yeah. Like I literally like probably about 10 minutes later after all this has happened and I hear her like talking to the cops and she's like being kind of loud and the cops did a very good job. They just slowly talked her down. I also went outside to make sure there was so a brief thought occurred to me. This is going to go back to LA, by the way. The home of police brutality. A part of me thought to myself, what if she was running from the cops for a good reason? And the reason I'm going to say that is because of the fact that I heard her kind of like talking to the cops that were in the driveway sort of deal, and they did a very good job of just slowly de-escalating the entire thing, talking her down in a calm voice, slowly getting her to like come out in the driveway. Everything's all good. They did a very good job de-escalating that entire situation. And I think there's obviously every terrible situation that like every abusive cop and that sort of thing always ends up on the headlines. This was a good example of like good people just doing a good job. But I remember opening that door 10 minutes after this entire thing had gone down. I'm still hopped up on adrenaline. And I remember the bolt of me opening the door and like, I remember this moment of like, what if there's someone still out there, when I opened the door, I literally jumped because that's just like, it's so ridiculous. But like when you're hopped up on adrenaline, that's like, just everything's different. You can't think straight all the time,
It sounds like you have the first half of a Black Mirror episode going on. Like you're one twist.
Yeah.
You're one twist away from like a Black Mirror script.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go write that down. No,
the twist is that I do let her into the apartment, and she was running from the cops, but I'm the real threat, or something like that. That would be the real. I'm the serial killer or something.
You're actually the monster.
Yeah, that would be the.
Dude, you had a gnarly. At least your New Year's was chill.
Oh yeah, I did nothing. My girlfriend wasn't home. We didn't get to spend New Year's together, so I did nothing but play Dota all day. What about the kiss?
It's so important.
Yeah, I hate fireworks. I hate loud noises. So
that, thinking about it, makes sense.
Yeah. So that's my story. Did you enjoy the story?
I did. I forget that, random shit like that just happens sometimes. Yeah. And a lot of times we're just clued off to the world of like, oh, there's like, these things just happen.
Yeah.
And they happen infrequently and normally not to you. Like, that's probably never going to.
No, nothing like this has ever happened to me before. So.
Yeah, but like it's there's so many, you're just, another part of her story now too, because she's gonna.
Yeah, I'm that asshole that sold her out to the cops. I still stuck with the last thing that she said to me was "God bless you."
I think, praise God. Thanks.
I was like, "Well, shit, I called the cops on you, so I'm glad you're forgiving."
Hey man, and that's crazy. I'm also thinking, I'm listening to your story and being like, my apartment does have a gate. It would be really hard for someone to get to my front door and stuff like that.
You have a nice gated apartment. Mine opens out into like a busy street.
But you're not in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah, I know. I live in Glendale. It's very nice. I literally never have to worry about anything dangerous happening in Glendale. And then this one moment made me rethink that, of course. But,
so, you're a better hero. I wouldn't have handled that as well. Almost certainly. I'm gonna hard transition.
Okay.
Into the questions that
sounds good.
Sent us, because I was also trying to think of a segue, being like, man, how can we connect these dots? And the answer, I didn't come up with one. Then we can workshop one. Be like, the cop sure did have a lot of questions for her, just like Twitter had for us. There we go. See, we found it.
I only wanted to tell that story, by the way, because I'm trying to work on my storytelling in general. And if you think about it, being a commentator is just telling kind of shitty stories, not really life impactful stories. So when I had a good story to tell, I really wanted to tell it just because I'm trying to be better at it.
I think it's good delivery. I like the. I think when people try to learn how to tell stories, not that I'm an expert at all, a lot of people at first miss small details that ultimately are unimportant. I didn't need to know that you had a butcher knife or wore naked or the exact way that your front door works to be able to see the person or not see the person.
Yeah.
But that's the extra stuff that people don't think about that I really think makes that difference when someone can be on stage and be compelling versus someone who is just telling a story.
Being a good storyteller is really a skill.
It's a muscle. You got to really practice it too.
Blitz and Slacks those are two of the best storytellers in Dota. And Slacks has so many great stories, and he's so good at telling them. And I just always admired both of them, so I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah.
Questions? Yeah. Sorry. I'm out.
I can't find a second good segue. Man, we really butchered that connection like you almost did to that poor woman with your knife. God. My brain is broken. Please tell me how to tell better stories.
Oh, Jesus.
I also just realized that now I have to read people's names, which is a thing that's harder. Like Nuance, who I believe I want to say Nuance, who I know has tweeted at both of us many times, so thank you for listening to the show. But it's N with 2 zeros, ANC, like Nuance,
Okay,
right?
yeah, like Nuance. Yeah,
I think so.
That's a clever name.
It's gonna, oh man, or it's gonna just really blow back in my face. We're just getting a lot of publicity. Starting off with, I don't know, do we even call this a softball? To know what the most useful Dota item in real life would be? Because it's like a hypothetical question. Yeah. How do you feel about hypothetical questions?
No, I'm totally down with this. We've talked about this plenty of times as talent. I distinctly remember a late night car ride with me, Blitz, Milk, and this was in the days of Join Dota, and this was one of the conversations we had. It wasn't item, it was what hero ability would you take? And I think it tells a little bit about your personality, though there's really only like 3 good answers.
Is it only 3 good answers?
Yes.
Okay, so let me...
I've thought about this a lot.
Do I have one of them? Because it's definitely going to something a lot about my personality. Sure. When I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about which item can I use to best monetize.
Okay. Yeah,
and use as something else to either help other people or as a profit center.
Sure.
And I think that if I had a mechanism, I can just heal people all the time.
Okay.
Which would, I mean, I can just undercut healthcare prices. Right? like it can be a business. Yeah. People would walk up to me every so many seconds, just press it and be like, okay, there's a little bit of health back. And they'd be like, great. Literal fountain of youth. Or someone like Jeff Bezos, I can be like his private mechanism person, and no one else can have it but him, but I'll have so much money.
So you're not going to do the Urn of Shadows?
No.
Where you go into the hospital, wait for someone to die, and then turn that healing back into 2 other people? That's the dark part of it, Joey.
No, I don't want to be dark. I don't need more people to die. I don't care about people living or dying. I don't care about healing people. I care about the money aspect. I think the mechanism is the best item to monetize.
Okay.
Was that one of the 3 that's acceptable?
Well, I haven't thought about items so much, but I think that is one of the ones that people always go to is mech. So, can I ask you what hero ability would you choose? Because that one only has 3 good answers.
God, I would. That was enjoyable for someone, right? That sound of noises. It's an ASMR podcast.
I'll give you mine.
Yes.
It's Furion Teleport.
That's the one that I was, it's going to sound lamer than I was thinking.
It's 100% Furion Teleport.
It seems like it's the most practical.
Yes.
There might be some that I think are better, maybe?
So the other options that I have heard, or I've also considered myself, is that Weaver's time lapse. So you can always prevent bad things happening to you, sort of deal. So like any time like you were to, say like
not
fall off the building, you could time lapse yourself back onto the building, sort of deal, right? Yeah, those are.
That probably wouldn't work for like instant death though. Like if I got hit by a train, I'm like boom, right? Like
yeah.
So
so you would just have to see your death coming fast enough. I guess. Activate it, right?
Yeah.
That's one.
TP seems like the
Blink Dagger and Boots of Travel are two Teleport and Blink, which same thing for items. Boots of Travel and Blink Dagger are like the common responses. So the and for me, like I love my life. I think I have a very good life. The only part I don't like is traveling. So Boots of Travel would make everything a lot easier.
Unless it was like dumb rules about it, like you can only travel to like certain random buildings. You're like, fuck.
I mean, like,
I
if I
needed to
could
go to
only teleport to
Romania.
buildings, right? If I could only teleport to buildings, like let's say airports, that's fine with me as long like they have a shuttle, they can pick me up. I don't care about that. I don't have to teleport straight to the venue, just not the flying aspect itself.
It would just be useful for like, man, I really like. I forgot eggs at the market.
Yeah, that sort of thing too.
Like, I feel like I'd almost think about it more like that than anything else.
Yeah.
TFG Joda asked me that we touched upon very lightly in the episode. Wow, holy! I think I just had a stroke. I smell toads. TFG Dota said that the hot topic on Reddit is that Valve should start caring about the declining player base. And I think that we debunked that last time. That or debunked is the wrong word, but
yeah,
it's more complicated than that. But advertisements would be cool.
Yeah, I think they should have always cared about the new player base. Unfortunately, it did not seem to. They just didn't have the people or whatever to support it. And really, they didn't have any people who wanted to take that project on. Clearly, and it's a boring project.
Right.
Like if you're in the best in your field, you're like some of the best people in their field work at Valve, right? And if you're in the best in the field, you're not thinking about that sort of thing. So
yeah, how can we make the game better? How can we optimize the back end? What can we do? What's cool with the network? How do we get more people to play it? Which interestingly, if you look back on it, maybe they should have maybe they need to hire someone who's best in their field at getting people to play a game. Right?
Yeah.
Sup, Artifact.
It's unfortunate the fact that he never did support the newer player base, but I honestly don't know how impactful it would be now. They did it 5 years ago. I think it could have made a real impact. I think it could have made a real impact. I can't say for sure, but I think it's a lot less likely that it would be impactful now.
Amen.
I think you should still kind of do it. Because Dota is still going to go on for, honestly, probably another 5 to 8 years. I feel that very strongly. As an esport, it's easily got another 3 to 4 years. Whenever StarCraft dies, by the way, this is my marker. Whenever StarCraft finally dies, that's how I know Dota will have only 2 to 3 years left.
Okay.
That is literally the marker.
Isn't dead yet.
Yes, that is the marker for me as a commentator of like, at what point in time can I no longer do this as a job? And then I look at the StarCraft 2 talent, which is a much smaller scene, and I say, those guys are still able to do it. I'm still going to be able to do it for Dota. So I'm not worried.
Not yet, but there is a ripcord somewhere.
Yeah, there's a ripcord somewhere.
Which Airbell goes, Cap, please say Ruby, you're so cute live on air. Also...
That's not a question.
It's not a question. So, I mean, it's a demand, and I feel like we didn't ask for demands. We asked for questions. So, what weakness would you want added to Void Spirit? I can't talk.
So, there's so many options, but I think to maintain the uniqueness of the hero, I will say leave all the abilities by themselves. Make him as mobile as you want him to be. He's a slippery guy. He can go wherever you want. He's got a lot of magic damage. I think you just lower his stats. I think he has way too high of strength gain. I think he gets way too tanky. I think you could nerf his strength enough that you could probably keep the shield, the physical damage shield that he gets from his E. The numbers that it currently has, but my biggest problem is that even if you do manage to get a stun on him, you'll run out of chain stun and then he will get away, and that's very frustrating to finally catch that hero and then him not dying.
So too much raw
he's too tanky. Yeah, he's got way too much raw HP. So that would be the easy one. What was I supposed to say? Ruby, you're so cute.
I think it was something like that. Yeah, that's what it was.
All right,
you got the soundbite forever now. That it just exists.
You better give us a 5-star review on the podcast.
Thank you. Apple iTunes Store 5 stars. Thank you very much.
I don't care if you don't have an Apple product.
You know somebody
better
does.
Make an account and 5 stars.
I don't own an Apple product. I reviewed the show. This dude named Toby One Dota said.
I think I've heard of him.
I don't know. He has one of those check marks on Twitter?
Yeah, but sometimes people have check marks when they
don't
only
really
have like
deserve them, right?
500 people. Yeah,
Oh.
it's like 500 followers. It's like, who is this guy? So
I don't
he's
know.
probably one of them.
I don't know why they just give them the Dota casters. It seems like fucking arbitrary, but
Yeah.
whatever. I don't care. Dedicated Dota 2 studios is how Dota was founded. Is there a need for them now? They're gone.
So he says, keep in mind the RU options and the stability of viewership in that region. I do think it's really good. I think the studio system is very good for viewers. To elaborate on this, I think that it works for the CIS region in particular because they are more centralized and there's just a lot more opportunities from what I understand. The very large viewership offers them opportunities to be able to do more, but also like, the CIS tournaments that are kind of always going on, they can do that because there's a viewer base to really back it. But maybe that would have been possible with English viewers, right? Maybe there would be more people than just like 2,000 watching the main cast Winter Brawl that I casted this morning. If we actually had dedicated English studios that were covering this and creating a good product for it, that I think is a real, that could have been a real future where we had more people caring, funny enough, about the tier 2 scene because they're willing to watch it because they know there's a good product that's actually supporting it. Good commentators backing it up, panelists that are interesting and funny that you want to listen to, or experts that are going to teach you about the game. All those sorts of things that would legitimately, that is very real, that would build viewership for our esport. Unfortunately, the English viewing talent are very decentralized. If we're in the US, we're all over the US. Those not in the US are in Europe, and they're all over Europe. And so we aren't all in one place, and I don't think any of us are really willing to be in one place. And I think that is very natural. That talent want to be independent because that is the same way that that's the same way that actors started out in Hollywood, right? If you go back to the early days of Hollywood, actors were originally tied to studios, right? Mm-hmm. You totally know about this,
Yes,
right? Being
yes.
a producer and stuff. So they were tied to studios at that time. So they could only work on studio
You don't
projects.
do Universal things. You don't do
Right.
NBC things because
And-
that's the actor.
And at some point in time, the actor themselves becomes big enough that they go, why do I need to only be tied to one studio when people will hire me for anything because I'm a great actor and I have a large fan base that is going to follow me. So naturally, actors all became independent. Now no one's tied to a studio, really, right? No actor's tied to a studio, right?
If you're a big enough actor in Hollywood, no, you're not tied to a studio. If you are like a mid to big actor in Hollywood, you're tied to an agency, and the agencies have a lot of pull with studios, so it still kind of exists in a very weird roundabout back channel way. Mm-hmm. But that's, you can say like the same group of people are normally doing BTS events, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's
and I think that is just natural for in any sort of talent field. The tier 1, the best of the talent, well, not even best, but like the people who are most followed or whatever. The people at that tier 1 level have the power to be able to have the independent nature. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing, unless they make the product, right, like BTS does, where BTS casters became the studio, became the people throwing the tournament, and, LD obviously had much grander plans than just Dota. I think it's natural. Every talent industry is always going to kind of follow that same line.
From a business perspective, it's interesting because if you want to do something that could be, if you want to call it a tier 2 studio, for lack of a better name, because it's not a BTS, you're just focusing on Dota. You're just doing these events that the other tournaments don't have the money to pay a BTS, PGL, ESL, what have you to do.
Right. So Moonduck.
Yes.
Right.
So like a Moonduck, you have like a what's the end game of a studio like that? Because as a business, do you just want to be a business that is like shoehorning itself into only being a small studio that just does one hyper specific thing? That might be great for 4 to 7 people maybe who can just be that studio, that can be their full-time thing, but not if you want to work in other games or do other things or expand. So it's like you're intentionally starting a small nichier business and being okay with that.
Yeah. And then naturally, if like a Moonduck example, right, is that say Moonduck was like they were all in the same house sort of deal. And say for some reason, like somebody like Trent could only work Moonduck events, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, him and Lyrical or you know, me and him, like we get the opportunity to be able to work TI or that sort of thing, a non-Moonduck event. Moonduck's paying for Trent's salary. They're requiring a percentage of what he's making at TI or something like that. The numbers don't shape up, sort of deal. It's just like once that small like second tier studio of second tier talent, once one person gets big enough, it doesn't really make sense for almost either side to be tied together anymore like that, right? And that's part of the reason why Moonduck is not that kind of studio that we're talking about, where they're all like in one house and they're all very tightly aligned. They only work, you know, X events. It's more like a loose conglomeration, but it's
like a production company more so than like a.
And you know, that's what happened to Join Dota at some point in time, right? It made more financial sense for all of us. For me, Toby, and for Blitz. For the three of us to be independent, because financially the security, the salary was not worth the exchange of being tied to one studio, being able to work as many events as we would get hired for, and being able to keep 100% of that pay. Right. And it was hard for them as a studio for us to argue that we want to be able to keep, like, say 100% of our rate. Okay, but they're also paying us salary at that same time. We're not working for them at that same. Yeah, it's like a very messy situation that I don't think either side really walks away happy with. And this is me approaching it with the maturity of, you know, that being several years ago. Obviously, at the time that I left Join Dota, I was a little bit more heated. Because that's who I am.
Fair, yeah. But you can get someone fired from a hotel.
In the ideal world, like studios would be the best for I think Dota 2, for the eSports, for growing viewership, for all those sorts of things. Not necessarily best for the talent. It would be best for the talent if, like, you know, Turner came along and said, we want to build a Dota 2 studio, and hired a bunch of tier 1 talent and paid us all extreme amounts of money. And
not out of the question.
Yeah. I mean,
these things are happening in esports. Like, look at the Call of Duty League, look at the Overwatch League.
I think Overwatch League is, for all the shit, like, a lot of people can give Overwatch League. I think the product itself that they made around the game is actually very good.
Yes,
right? Like,
absolutely.
Like, I think they hired, like, really good talent. I think the talent make more of that esport than many other esports, if not all other esports, in like a weird way, because the talent sort of came first in a way, and they hired, like, really premier good talent that were already good at their jobs before, you know, like, the actual game.
They also hired a lot of
their
Hollywood
insane.
people.
Holy crap.
Like, a lot of esports events and producers and production has, like, come from a grassroots place. Like, people who worked at ESL when ESL got bigger, people who were doing esports since they were in high school, right? But Overwatch League was like, hold on, we have the money to pay people in Los Angeles from Hollywood to come in. So they have that whole prestige too, which is just, you know, they got the look, they got the people. It's, I think, you know, I guess to circle back to what Toby's saying, I think that there could be a very small market hole for, like, an English studio for a very, very small group of people. Like, if there was a group of 3 to 4 people who both were able to, live together and produce these events and not make big bucks for it, but make their money and cast them and produce them and like treat themselves like a production company and like a startup. I think that there is that could be cool. I think that the people could latch on to something that was like, oh, hey, I'm really excited to watch these people start their new studio, because there almost isn't underdogs to root for in the production space. I think that there could be people in Dota who'd be like, oh, I like watching these, or almost for the same reason you'd want to watch an up and coming caster, because you're like, I like Moxie a lot. So maybe there's like a very niche way to do it, but by and large, with a BTS or ESL or anyone else just taking up so much of the market space, how do you even try and get any headspace in America?
Yeah. It's funny that Toby asked this question, because I feel like the OG caster probably has the best thoughts of anybody. The first Dota 2 caster who got hired by a studio in the first place and also left that studio, like
he might be telling us, he might be like in a car somewhere being like, you guys are fucking idiots. Or like, wow, really insightful. Since I don't know the answer, I'm going to pretend it's the latter. But you're right. It would also be interesting to just hear Toby's take or just other people's take too, because I'm sure that everyone has very different perspective on this. I'd like to hear the perspective of someone who isn't at all involved and just watches. If they would just be like, no, of course not. Why would I watch this when I can just watch the BTS stream?
I don't care about pleb opinions, Joey.
I do. They keep me up at night. Someone said I looked fat the other day. Man. It's Cameron Bloom has a question for you, for Cap. Which thing in your career does he/you feel has attributed most to your success? Like
advice, person, lifestyle, change, choice.
Is there like a marker you?
What is the one thing that really made me successful? I would say. Okay, so earlier I said like everybody from Join Dota. Not everybody from Join Dota left. Gareth still works at Join Dota, and he still casts Dota, and I still think he is a good commentator. He got a lot of hate from the community, and that hate never really resolved itself, sadly. And I think he's good at his job, and I don't think I'm great at my job. I don't know why I was able to make it as successfully as I did and other people were not. That is like the one thing is like I could always compare myself to other people who weren't able to make it like really into the tier 1 space like I am. And I honestly, there's like a lot of little things that I think I did pretty well, but there's a lot of things that I don't think my commentating is like, I could still really improve. And the one thing I will say is that I think I had a lot of perseverance. I don't know if this is exactly what it's asking for, but like, I got flamed to shit just like Gareth did, and Gareth put it up with it really well. I think first of all, I came earlier than he did, so there was open space for me to work. 2, I got a dedicated caster in Blitz. Blitz really likes to joke that he made my career, and I would obviously vehemently deny that if you ask me seriously, but I also do think that being with Blitz helped my career a significant amount, and I think I was honestly just really lucky in a lot of ways. Very blessed to have Blitz join Dota, that he wanted to cast with me, that we made a good duo together, that just a lot of things worked.
It's a series of things that any of them could have gotten wrong at any time. You and Blitz could have not liked each other. You could have not got the joint Dota thing. Some tournament organizer, maybe there's like a tournament organizer.
Maybe ESL One Frankfurt doesn't hire me. James Lampkin was the one who like kind of stuck it out and said that, this guy who's being hated on by Reddit right now, we want to give him a chance, and they hired me. You know, like that was the first event that I ever worked, and I was obviously that was in the full hatred cycle of me, and I got the chance to work on a main event. I think I performed well under the pressure of the circumstances. I think I did pretty well. I worked well with the other talent. I was a hard worker. You know, I did all those things. There's little things like I'm good at the game, so I made that part of my brand. The MMR climb that I did was that was partially branding. That was like a idea of I know I'm good enough to analyze this game, and I'm doing a lot of solo casting. And Twitch chat, 2K Twitch chat is flaming me all the time, telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. So how do I prove that I know what I'm talking about? Well, there's a very easy way. There's this number in Dota 2
I can show you
that represents how big my penis is. If you're 2K, you have a very small penis. If you have 6K, it's very large. So I legitimately
can make it
like I would go and I would cast, and then I would go home and I would grind, and I would increase my MMR. I don't even know how much better I got at Dota, but all I know is the number went up. And the number made me more credible, and it became a brand and it became a meme, which I did sort of plan out. It worked better than I anticipated, but it worked kind of the way I thought it would, which is if I can say, or if somebody else could say, actually, if one of my fans could say, hey, he's actually 6K, maybe you should think about it. That person goes, holy shit, he's 6K? Like, what the fuck? And so I grinded. I grinded to 6K, I grinded to 7K. That was one thing that I think helped my career a lot. I dressed very nice. I legitimately
in a time where people weren't.
Yes,
that's
I put
important.
in the effort to dress better than other people at that time, because part of it's my personality coming from the military, and also my father kind of instilled this in me. Is like it's also a psychological thing as well. You look good, you feel good, sort of deal.
Dress
right?
well, test well.
Yeah, it's like those sort of things all kind of work, right? So if I show up, I want to be professional at my job. I show up looking like a professional, right? And that's just sort of the ethic that I had. But that obviously like went really well, because then obviously I grow beard, for God's sakes. That probably helped me another 10 points.
Yeah, silly things. It's really weird to try and look back and like trace things.
How much of that was intentional? How much of that was luck? I don't really know.
So like luck, perseverance, and a little bit of like actually having the forethought to plan stuff seems like a secret formula that works in a lot of places, honestly.
Yeah, isn't that that saying that always gets spammed is that was it something about like success and luck, and it's just about like being prepared for the luck that comes your way. And you know,
I feel like I've seen that on a pillow once. Like I was in a Marshalls, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is deep. But
my
no,
brain's too fried to think of it right. But yeah, it's I don't know, honestly, it's just a lot of luck and hopefully utilizing that luck.
yeah, being prepared for luck is important, and knowing people, and it always helps to have someone in a position of power who likes you.
Yeah. I mean, I got hired by Valve as well, right? Like ESL1 hired me, and I think because ESL1 hired me and I did well enough at that tournament, Valve hired me for TI4 group stage. And then I think I did well enough at TI4 group stage that they in turn hired me at TI5 main event. So on and so forth.
And the wheel keeps on turning.
Yeah.
Math Magician 10. Will Cap throw around a water bottle while casting with Trent, or will it be syrup instead?
Well, you can't put syrup in a bottle. It's got to be in one of those glass deals, right?
You get like some Aunt Jemimas.
I feel like that'd be hard to sling around. Oh, that's true. I could squeeze it out on him.
Squeeze it out on him.
Yeah.
That's probably writing for a
I feel like Trent would take it better than Blitz would, but it's also syrup as opposed to water, so maybe Trent would take it worse than Blitz would.
More slapstick in our cast. Just
for anybody who has ever seen that GIF and sees Blitz reacting very poorly, it's because he didn't know it was me throwing the water around. He just thought mid-cast that a fan came up behind us and threw water on us, and he's like, "What the hell? What kind of bullshit is this? Like, fans are dumping water on me while I'm trying to do my job."
Man, yeah. You know, he's got some real heat now that people are excited in the audience. Game Maniac 36 has a question that I inherently have a problem with. Who would win in a fight, Dota Capitalist with Barehanded versus Leaf Eater with any one Dota item? So I feel like there's some inherent bias in this question in the sense that I would need...
Yeah, why don't I need the item? Joey's a dangerous guy. You don't know what he's like off camera.
I have no idea.
How do you think he got me on this podcast in the first place? He bullied me into it.
I'm a big boy. That's going to make me sound more fat. God damn it. I'm a strong boy. Okay? I know Blitz is really proud to like go to the gym.
Probably don't
like,
call yourself a boy. That would be step one.
What? Oh.
Big boy, strong boy. Like neither one of those are masculine terms.
Boy with an I.
I'm a strong man.
Oh, that sounds doesn't sound cool. Big boy.
Big boy.
I know, like Blitz, he'll like go to the gym and he'll be like, "Hey, Cam, can you take a video of me? Look at me. I look up with these strong weights." I just do that every day. You don't need to show it to people. Jesus. I assume the Cap is probably.
Well, I'm more interested. What item would you choose?
I mean, I guess does it come with its inherent power?
No, let's say it doesn't, because we have no idea how to quantify that exactly. So just based off the aesthetic, what item would you choose?
Probably one that's like you can actually handle. There's nothing that's like. So
there's like regular
Monkey King bar isn't existing.
So, well, I mean, what about claymores, broadswords?
I guess I don't just have a picture of how big they are.
The reavers and axe. I mean, just assume they're regular. Like claymore's a big ass sword. A broadsword's a smaller sword.
I'd probably take a small sword. I'd probably take something that's a little cutty, maybe like an iron talon. I feel like that'd be dirty. I feel like an iron talon would be really dirty, like that. That would scrape and claw.
What is the iron talon? Yeah, I was thinking the claws of attack. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
that was actually the first thing I thought of.
Blade
just go all fucking Wolverine on my ass.
Yeah, that'd be bad. I assume that with military, you probably have a more formal idea of how to hurt someone. And I feel that you can probably get pretty, if need be, pretty hot and scrappy.
Some people always ask me about these questions: who would win in a fight, et cetera, et cetera. The truth is that I have some training in combat. I've been in a fight. I know what that experience is like, and I think people who haven't been in an actual fight, like an actual you don't know what's going to happen fight, what they don't realize is you don't know what's going to happen. That's the secret of it. Doesn't matter how big or small the person is, you don't know what's going to happen because there's a lot of things into it. First of all, there's some weird stat about 90% of fights are won by the person who goes first.
Yeah.
The person who punches first, the other person gets dazed while the other person just has a hurt hand. That person, is obviously at a big disadvantage. Also, so here's another one. I want to link it back to the earlier podcast with Charlie. Do you remember this? The Blitz Zoe thing?
Oh. Who has more stamina?
Oh, pooping. But another thing, what people underestimate is the power of shitting your pants. No, the Splits and Zoe fight.
Fuck, I forgot. I gotta clip that out and send that to him.
What was I saying? Oh,
stamina?
No, it's not stamina that matters. Stamina matters in a fight. But what matters more is weight. Weight matters a lot in a fight. So and then again, just you run the simulation 100 times, there's a lot of shit that can happen. Who knows? You would have to be the only people who are really confident about fights are people like Fly, who have years and years of martial arts training, of Krav Maga,
crazy martial arts.
Yeah, and he's also a big dude. He's very strong in every kind of way. I've seen all the body exercises he does, and so he's just strong all around, and he's very well trained. like for years and years and years and years. That's the only people who can ever be confident about which way a fight's going to go. Anybody else who says anything else, they're lying to you. So the truth is, I have no idea how a fight would go. But if he has a sword, I'm probably losing.
Probably.
Sharp
or anything.
Blades of attack. All Freddy Krueger.
I fight dirty too, so I have no problem just cheating. Like, that doesn't bother me even the slightest. And I think I might have more weight on you too.
That could be a real thing.
I think I need to stop. I'm like at 200. We're gonna go back down soon. It's time to cut.
Okay, we're kind of close.
Kind of close. You're probably like what, 2 inches taller than me?
I am 6 foot.
Yeah, you're like 2 inches taller than me. Oh, I'm just a short boy. I'm a short boy who needs a sword.
You're 5'10". You're not short.
My roommates the other day yelling. Yeah.
Being in Dota though makes you feel short.
Yeah, everyone's tall.
Everyone's
tall. Everyone's kind of pretty. It's gross. Where would you love to see the minor tournaments take place? Are you interested in bringing the Dota Pro Circuit somewhere like South America or Australia? Can WSG in Brazil be a showcase for a DPC tournament in South America? Is a question from LG Mida.
So I kind of love these questions because I'm always kind of interested in what they think I'm going to respond. Like, you think I'm going to be like, no, I don't want to go anywhere south of Texas. Like, of course, I would love to go to South America for minor and major. I don't think we should have just a minor in South America. I think South America, from everything I understand, I've never been to South America, but everything I understand, I imagine the fans are going to be very similar to Southeast Asia in the aspect of the raw enthusiasm that is going to be there for the game.
It would be hype.
Peru or Brazil, either way, would be mega hype. I would love to have a minor and major there. The reason I say not minor and major is because they're obviously very close together, and I wouldn't want to have a South America minor and a Russian major or something like that. But I would like to see
do
tight
like
events.
Texas and like Brazil.
Yeah, sure.
Probably like Texas and South Paul. That's not crazy.
Yeah, I think that would be sick if we had some sort of North American minor or major and South American minor or major combination. I think that'd be really cool. Sadly, the current tournament system is just weird.
It's weird, and it costs people money to do it. So, like,
I really want people to be rewarded to get both a minor and a major. That's been on my list for so long. If you get a major, you get a minor with go.
I think you should eventually do an event in Australia, but I think Australia is just really logistically hard to travel in between.
Yeah.
So it's hard for everyone to get to because these companies have to move all their equipment down there.
Yeah. I got an offer to do an event in Australia. It was for very substandard rates because it was a small event, and I totally understood why, and I would have loved to go. But for me personally, it just wasn't worth the time investment of going all the way out to Australia for very little money in a time where I was traveling a lot, and also, like, there's weird things like rate standards and when you should cut that down and at what point are you taking opportunities from tier 2 and tier 3 talent, et cetera, et cetera. So instead, Slacks went and had a honeymoon there. He had a honeymoon and stuff, so it worked very nicely for him.
One day I think they'll get a minor eventually.
Yes. I would love
the Auckland, New Zealand minor. That might be
I would love to go to Australia for a minor or major for like a big event.
Kenneth, chili cheese fries or poutine? Also noting that In-N-Out animal fries from In-N-Out can get fucked.
Oh, yeah. In-N-Out have bad fries.
Oh, thank you.
I thought you were going to defend it,
no,
Mr. LA.
I'm a fry person. In-N-Out has bad fries. Oh, you see them make the potatoes. They pick them up from the ground and then they take all the husks off and they smash them and they fry. It's bad. In-N-Out will always have sub-tier fries, bottom-tier fries.
They taste like styrofoam.
Also,
there's no flavor there whatsoever.
If you do have to have In-N-Out fries, the pro tip is to ask for them well done. because I think
heard
they hold up better if they're a little extra crispy. They're like palatable. I know people love.
I don't like crunchy fries though. That's
people like animal style. For if you don't know, you can order from In-N-Out and have something be animal style. That like if you're gonna have like melted cheese and a bunch of spread and some grilled onions on your fries, that's like the thing. A lot of people love it. I hate pickles and me too. And the animal style just tastes like pickles because that's what In-N-Out spread is. So In-N-Out fries and animal style is trash. I
love poutine. Poutine's very good. I don't like chili, so
my favorite chili cheese fry is better than my favorite poutine.
Okay.
But an average poutine is better than an average chili cheese fry.
That is a better take than mine because I just don't like chili. Easy answer.
It's funny that Anand C is like episode with Kyle Wynn. That'll almost certainly be released before this one is. So there's just a couple more left, and we should really kill this. We should just stab it dead. Bolt easy. Differences you and Leafeater had growing up, or more about pre-Dota stuff.
Let's cut it short with the most open-ended question of all time.
Differences that you and Leafeater had growing up.
Let's take this. Let's take this simple. What did you want to be growing up?
Oh fuck! I didn't
at any point in time. Like this could be teenager years or whatever.
I originally went to school for computer science. There was a long period of time where I'm like, I'm just going to be like a programmer. So I went to like a pretty okay school in a suburban, mostly white and Latinx neighborhood, and got a good education and had parents who were lower middle class and don't have a lot to complain about as a cis white male.
Okay, very similar.
So
yeah,
I don't know what the difference is.
Pretty much all of this is the exact same. I grew up in a wider part of town than you did, very likely, because I also I grew up in I went through private school.
Okay.
Were you public?
Yeah, it was public.
Yeah. I went to my family is originally Adventist Christian.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Okay,
before.
so Adventist Christians are the ones that believe that God was coming for what is that? What is that term?
Calendars.
No. What's the term where he takes everyone to
water,
heaven?
wine,
no.
rapture.
The rapture. Thank you. That they did the math of the Bible or whatever the hell is in Revelations, I guess. They did the math, and there was they actually did the math to it being X date and whatever, and that was in like 1960 something or whatever. So that's the Seventh-day Adventists who go to church on Saturday, who take parts of the Old Testament, best Testament, Joey. Most modern Christians follow the New Testament. Seventh-day Adventists will take bits and pieces of the Old Testament. For the most part, they're just known for going to church on Saturday and mostly being vegetarian.
Was your family vegetarian?
Like, as in we weren't allowed to eat pork.
Okay.
And so as a result, most modern day Adventists will oftentimes just be vegetarian, more like a choice sort of deal. Eating pork is bad because that's in the Old Testament, like that sort of thing.
Yes. Okay.
I am not religious anymore, but I grew up going through private Christian school in elementary, and then I went to 1 year private Christian high school before my parents divorced, and then I went to public school for the rest of my high school. So,
my parents are still together. They should definitely be divorced, though.
Similar. Okay, so similar experiences.
Probably a little bit.
Hope your parents don't listen to this podcast.
There's no way that's going to happen. Mom, I'm sorry, but like, if you really do some introspective thought, you probably know that I'm right. I grew up completely without religion in a town that was like, California is mostly a blue state, or for people who don't follow American politics, because this is actually an international podcast, which is kind of cool. Like they're a little bit more liberal. A lot bit more liberal. and I grew up in a little like nugget of red.
Yeah.
And while my parents were a little bit more conservative, one of the things that everyone else was and we weren't was religious. So that was an interesting. I grew up just devoid of it and never really understood a lot of it. But where everyone else I talked to like had these either strict schedules or church or all these beliefs, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Okay, so here's a hometown story for me. I grew up in, I moved. I used to live around the Seattle area, but when parents divorced during high school, I moved to a place called Longview, Washington, where the rest of my mom's side of my family lives. And I think you can look this up. The founder of Longview is a man named R.A. Long. There is a statue as well as a high school for him. And as far as I understand, he was a vehement racist. Longview was settled by a bunch of Southerners who moved up north to Washington State and settled that town. That city, my best friend in high school.
Is this where you went to high school?
That was not where I went to high school.
Okay.
I went to Kelso, but I lived in Longview. My best friend. His father was on the city council for Longview, and in some of the code for some of the neighborhoods, there is still rules in there about black people not being allowed to live in that neighborhood. That code was never taken out, but it still exists. And the reason it's still there is people just kind of figure it's more of a hassle to take it out.
Really hard to change the.
Yes.
Man, that.
And Longview has a very nice man-made lake. And one day I was walking that man-made lake. I think it was probably when I was trying to get ready to join the Marine Corps. And I remember this very clearly. There was two girls in front of me, pretty long distance away, and I'm running, kind of catching up to them, and a guy walks past them, going the opposite direction towards me, and he's shirtless, and I see the girls as he passed by. The girls look backwards, and they kind of talk to themselves. And it's a shirtless guy, so I'm thinking like, oh, they're like, you know, like giggling about like how hot that guy was or something like that, and I'm of course like, why couldn't that be me? And then the guy passes my path, and I see exactly what those girls were talking and whispering to each other about. The man had a goddamn Nazi symbol on his chest.
Where you live?
And he was just out there in daylight, totally shirtless, walking around like that. Yeah.
Sometimes I don't like being a white person because it makes me sad that that's you lived there.
Yeah. So needless to say, I lived in a very, very, very white part of town. That was also more conservative. Because that's where the paper plants are. I worked in an industrial paper plant. So I worked a regular job, I worked a blue-collar job, and I also was in the military as well. So I have the life experience to understand how cushy my job is, to also tell people to shut the hell up because my job is still stressful, even if it's a nice job.
People don't always want to believe that.
Yeah.
Because it's nice, that means it can't be bad.
Imagine complaining about casting and talking about video games.
Dude, you gotta go on fucking airplanes. I want to rifle through just the last few, just real quick now. Slappy Bag wants to know if we think Dota All Stars and the Warcraft 3 Reforged will impact Dota 2 at all.
No.
Yeah, I foresee people wanting to play it for a novelty purpose, but like it'll never be as good as what Valve can do.
Yeah.
So no.
Unless for some reason Ice Frog has a fight with Gaben and he leaves Valve and decides to go back to making Dota in the Warcraft
I would
engine.
want to believe that there has to be contracts in place where that couldn't happen, but like, what a fun story that would be. That would be like,
imagine if Ice Frog's just on the side, he's just like, as a hobby, he just starts like making a different Dota within Warcraft 3, and he's just like, it's like the alternate timeline sort of deal. He's like, I made the game like this, but what if I made it like this instead?
Hef, very important question. What's the best looking Dota character?
The best looking Dota character. Beastmaster is really good looking. He's got like this nice combination of like very manly, but his facial features are still good if I recall. He's mega hairy though.
Is it weird to give a non-humanoid answer?
Sure. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, I
I got like a silver fox thing that I've always kind of liked, like Anderson Cooper, attractive, right?
so like Nahaz.
Let's not get in there.
Okay.
He's not listening either, right? Nahaz, my mom, Conrad,
Right.
out of the question. Zeus, it's that white hair.
Okay. When you were saying, I thought you were saying non-human. He's still a human.
What?
I thought you were going to say Phantom Lancer.
How dare you say Zeus is not a human? He is a god.
When I play Zeus, he does not. I don't have the Stormcloud Arcana. I play him with the bare naked Thunder God's chest and the bare naked Thunder God's arms, and he walks on the ground like a human. So, for me, he's a mortal man.
Fair.
I thought you were going to say Phantom Lancer.
He does also have white hair.
He also has white hair and not human.
The blue thing kind of puts me off a little bit. I don't know if there's anyone else. Yeah,
Skywrath would be attractive, but he's too whiny, and that just turns me off on him. I can't take it.
I'd be interested in seeing what Huskar looks like naked, just out of like a morbid curiosity. But aside from
I
that,
feel like everything's burning.
yeah.
I see.
But I like that we avoided female answers. That's very progressive of us.
I mean, I just don't literally like. I don't have a waifu. They're all pretty attractive. Crystal Maiden's probably the most attractive.
That stuff's kind of weird. I think I would err on Dro with some Dro over
Dro Ranger?
CM.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
All right, let's make this spicy.
Go on.
So you're gonna have sex with one of the non-humans of Dota 2.
Okay.
Who were you having sex with?
I've always wondered about fish. So Slardar?
Okay, yeah, you already had that ready to go. I feel like, well, first of all, Slardar's a male, and second of all, Slardar's kind of, well, he's not Slark, let's say. He's the big fish, not the little fish. Are you going to be the little fish in that relationship?
Sure,
Joey?
why not? I mean,
Okay.
if we're experimenting, if we're exploring,
might as well go all the way.
You might as well really go out there.
Shit, I didn't think of my
Slimy?
answer.
I know.
I could say Dark Willow. I should have said Dark Willow for the memes. No. I need something better than that. Earthshaker. I would have sex with Earthshaker in a heartbeat.
You have no idea what he can do with that totem.
I have no idea what he could do with my totem, and it intrigues me to find out, Joey. It intrigues me to find out. Also, it means John Patrick Laurie is going to be making sweet love to me,
Which is
I'll get
a
to hear
benefit.
him making sounds to me.
One more thing. Let's wrap this out with someone with another check mark. Philip Aram, Phil. Is it the EG guy?
Again, giving out check marks for anybody.
Anyone, right? Like, oh, we own a team, or oh, we sold it to someone. Oh, I guess it's not, whatever. Why aren't there more tier 1 orgs in Dota?
Why are the experts asking us the questions?
Right. Okay. See now, like
why is
Toby asked a question about studios?
Yeah,
and
why
Phil
is
asked a question
Phil
about
asking us-
tier 1 teams.
What do you mean? Phil can't possibly expect a serious answer out of this, right?
I mean, I don't have a great joke answer, so I should have prepared something funny at least if he didn't.
To give like a half-hearted, semi-serious answer, and also saying that I don't really have any idea of what I'm talking about. I think that for Dota especially, team organizers are, in a way, very screwed over by the fact that TI is such a high prize pool, and that player-owned orgs are a very real thing. How successful they are is, a question for somebody else, but that's a question for Charlie.
Tucky's doing fine.
Yeah. But like naturally when prize pools are this high, salaries are also going to inflate, right?
Correct.
Nobody's saying like I'm willing millions of dollars and you can pay me $500 a month. Right? Like, nobody's saying
yeah. There's a reason why prices go up with team prestige and also with prize pool.
And then Valve also sets, like, as a tournament organizer, they also set very high standards, right? Which forces it sets a standard as well for other tournament organizers as well as team owners. So all in all, from my perspective, it just seems very expensive and not really worthwhile to have a Dota 2 team. I don't really know why you would have one, and I don't really like players can be a part of a team because why the hell not? You can make an absurd amount more money than I'm making all year just off of your salary, not to mention prize pools. So you can make a lot of money being a part of a team for that guaranteed pay, and every little bit of money helps. It's just like, so of course you're going to be a part of one.
Yeah.
Paid, but a lot of these guys don't really need it per se.
In my mind, it's two things, and we touched on one that like player orgs exist in Dota where they don't really necessarily as prominently in other games. Mm-hmm. We like have a culture of, well, why do we need this? We're making the money. We can self-fund. We can build up our own thing. Maybe we can become a tier 1 team, but we start here with ourselves. There's like some business aspect to it, but there's also that we don't need a team or a big sponsor to play in the international. We're just 5 people who want to play, right? Also, Dota teams are so incredibly volatile.
Yeah.
That like, if someone like, who are big names that even aren't in Dota? Like Cloud9, SKT1, Astrea's, FaZe. Those are the ones that jump out the most to me. Because really, there are a lot of tier 1 teams in Dota. Liquid, Fnatic, VP, Navi.
Yeah.
Anyone else is now, I guess, lower than that. There's others I'm not thinking of. LGD. Mm-hmm. Those all do exist, so it's not like it's barren. I just think that we don't have like the more of the Echo Foxes or the NRGs or the Genji eSports. And
I mean, how do you build a brand around these, right? When you buy into like a league system, right? Like you have more control over your roster. You have more control over your brand as a team. Like if I'm going to say like in Dota, like we pick up these guys, like what's our brand in Dota going to be about? I don't know, because I don't really have any control over the roster, first of all, which, maybe you shouldn't in esports. I think that's fair enough. But like you have no control over the fact that like your star player that you signed could just that brings in, like, helps bring in a lot of sponsorship and stuff like that. That guy could just be gone.
Yeah. Can you imagine the Patriots just being like,
from now,
hey, we're just going to all kick Tom Brady because none of us want to play with him? Like,
yeah,
there's stuff in esports and Dota that's just not conducive of organizations always controlling their players, even with contracts.
Yeah.
So
the overall answer would be that because Valve very clearly set a philosophy of a heavy agenda of player first always. And as a result, tournament organizers and team owners probably got more squeezed out of this sphere than they probably intended. And that's that's our layman's answer.
And I don't think people necessarily care that much either. Like, people want to root for Kuroki and whatever the dumb name of that team is, and not be like, I'm only gonna follow Cloud9 and G2. People don't really have that type of loyalty, right? So it feels less important in Dota than other places, but they still do exist. EG's still here. Maybe this is just Phil just giving us a test.
Yeah, like half the time, like, dude, think about people buying like jerseys and stuff. Like, I bet half the time you're buying a secret Arteezy jersey for the memes, because, you know, like, that guy's not going to be on Secret for very long or something.
I almost bought an
You
ad.
just don't know. Like, I just don't see very many jerseys on fans in the stadiums at Dota 2 events. And
Yeah, it's
that
nothing
kinda
like
makes me a little sad. Like that camaraderie of being an X fan and having all the X fans and like be together. Like, sure, they're individual fans, but you know, there's something about that sports environment, you know, that I kind of wish we had more of.
It's more nationalistic than team based.
Yeah,
USA, China.
Yes.
Which we can't change because we're not world powers.
Yeah.
So that's fun. And that was a litany of things people asked us that was serious and not serious. And does that mean that Toby listens to the show? That's the most interesting thing. Does that mean Toby and Phil listen? Maybe?
If I had to guess, Phil, no.
No, he's too busy
Maybe
watching
Toby.
movies. Oh, I mean,
Toby-
Mad Max is the best movie of the decade.
Toby does podcasts. I listened to his podcast with Frankie. I thought it was really interesting. I learned stuff about Toby that I had no idea.
It's all good. You should all listen to everyone's podcast, but most importantly, ours first, because you can listen to it like anywhere you want. You know, any podcast player, any YouTube app, just look up Sidepole Podcast.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. I was intending to make this shorter, and it is almost certainly the longest recording we have to date. So that'll be fun. Maybe that's a treat, or maybe that's riddling you with anxiety that you just spent 90 minutes with us. So
I thought it was pretty good. I'm just glad I got to tell my story. That's all. I was looking forward to this podcast, by the way, to tell my stories, because I was like, some crazy shit happened to me, and I haven't told very many people. So.
I cannot believe that that little girl.
Yeah.
Huh? You are a hero.
I don't know about that.
You got.
Or to some people on the internet, that woman could have died on me.
Well, then we'd have a very different podcast to talk about. But it was
So I watched somebody die, Joey. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, that's man. Oof.
I watched the light escape from someone's eyes.
Yeah. Man, I was trying to transition to a story about how I watched someone get a T-bone on a motorcycle once.
Did you really?
Yeah, but I couldn't find a good way to get there.
Oh, just tell me now.
That was the.
Just tell me.
Have you ever been just, going to Toys R Us because they're having a sale on the little yellow Nerf balls, because the new Nerf guns, they take the little yellow balls instead of the darts that fly out.
Sure.
And you need them from work, and you need them today because you're going to do like a segment that has a lot of Nerf blasters, and you're like, shit, I need that. Okay, well, I know there's a Toys R Us down the street. I'll go. It's the one in Glendale. I was there when it was open, and pulling out of the parking lot, and I'm like, oh, let me turn back around because there's a Baja Fresh right there. I'm going to get a burrito because I'm hungry. And in the process of trying to make a U-turn, I'm looking over my left shoulder, I'm looking over my right shoulder. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get back into the shopping center. I start to make the U-turn. The intersection perpendicular to me is just like flowing traffic. And then a motorcycle just lurches on out in front of a car. And I'm like, I hear a big bang, and I'm like, what happened? What did I just see? Like, I couldn't process it properly at the beginning. So I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna get my burrito. No, I'm not gonna get my burrito. I want to go see what happened. But then you like see the scene of like a serious car accident. You don't want to be there.
No.
People like
Hang it out.
watching people just boop get hit like that is trauma. I'm sharing trauma with everyone. Was this a fun thing to end on? I got all the Nerf balls. We did the Nerf stunt. I didn't eat the burrito. If you were curious. Didn't get the burrito, but I do have trauma forever. So, everybody, this is a PSA for our podcast, for Toby's podcast, and for wearing a motorcycle helmet. And if I can leave you with anything else, I don't know what's better than that.
Wear your helmets, man.
You should.
My dad also almost died in a motorcycle accident.
Does he
He was
wear
the
a
one
helmet
driving
now?
the motorcycle. Yeah, so I can tell this story real quickly. So my dad My dad was young, 18, 19, something like that. Had a motorcycle and was driving down. It was like very late at night, no traffic. Comes to an intersection where the stop signs, four-way stop. He stops. He goes. Or something like that. Or no, sorry. It was a guy ran a red light, and it was a guy from his high school.
Double oof.
Ran the red light. Fortunately, he ended up in front of my dad in that situation and didn't T-bone the motorcycle because he would have died.
Oh yeah, I can confirm it's very bad.
Yeah. So, but instead, my dad's motorcycle runs into his car and or into his truck rather, and he went flying. Head over heels over the truck. His foot got caught on the handlebar. That was the like, besides, landing and obviously being very bruised and all that sorts of thing. He got his foot caught in the handlebar and his toe has kind of like never been the same. It's like just bent out of shape sort of deal. And his motorcycle ended up underneath the truck and it was gone. Totally gone. Completely total. Motorcycles are crazy dangerous, man.
Man, half a second on either side of that, and we wouldn't be doing the show because you would not be alive.
Yep.
That's gnarly, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, everybody, please wear a motorcycle helmet. That's what the PSA should play the Sarah McLachlan in the arms of an angel. Everybody donate to an animal shelter. Wear a helmet, and hopefully someone understands American infomercial jokes. Really gotta stop pitching all the audience. We're done. We've been done.